we were amazing, and then out of nowhere things just changed. That sound familiar to you? Have you been in a relationship 2 months, 3 months, give or take, and then suddenly the relationship, the person changes completely? My name is Flora, and I'm the founder of Redo Love, and I help you stop self-sabotaging your relationships so that you can attract your ideal partner in just 8 weeks, guaranteed. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel, comment, like, and let's get into it. Listen to this episode of the You Up podcast. First of all, it's one of my favorite podcasts. I've listened to every single episode. I binged it years back when I first started listening to it, and I love the content. But this particular episode highlights why pacing is so important in relationships. One thing, and I also want to go over what was missing from the responses, Jordana. I also want to go over what was missing, what information was missing from the responses from Jared and Jordana. That's hard to say. Say that 5 times real quick. Jared and Jordana, Jared and Jordana, Jared and Jordana. Anyway, in this podcast, the girl brings up an issue that, and I love that, by the way, guys, that you've added this new call feature. I really liked it. I liked hearing all sides of it. So in this podcast, this girl talks about this relationship that she had with this guy who was amazing. He was emotionally available. He was responsive. He was consistent. But she did notice that the relationship was moving kind of quickly. Within, I believe, a month, she says that they were meeting each other's families. He came to Christmas and the holidays with her, and by 2 months, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that they were exchanging I love yous. And then, out of nowhere, one day, they have a book trip for February, right? This is a very recent episode, so they have a book trip for February, and out of nowhere, he just stops responding. She can't get an answer from him. They go to this dinner. They have a very awkward time. The next day, he calls her up and he breaks up with her. And she's just dumbfounded. She can't understand why. They end up having a conversation about it. He can't really come up with a reason either. And this is the discussion on the podcast. Pacing. So let's break this down in detail. First of all, why is pacing so important? For many of us, it's easy to get caught up in our emotions. And it's understandable, right? Because when you feel good, you want to follow that feel-good feeling and you want to live in it and you want to breathe it and, you just want to experience it as much as possible. And you don't want to deny the person that is bringing you that good feeling because of the fear that they might get turned off or that they might get offended. You might hurt their feelings. Believe it or not, that is actually the best case scenario. Because if somebody isn't willing to hang on and hang out just because you want to pace your relationship, right? Just because things are moving a little bit too fast for you, then that is a person who is never going to stick around anyway. Now, in regards to this podcast, it's very clear that this guy is avoidant, or at the very least has a high percentage of avoidance on the spectrum, right? In terms of attachment styles. He's 32, he's never been in a long-term relationship. When he felt some sort of emotion, he wasn't able to discuss it with her and work it through with her. He did try and get back together with her after a day or a week or something, and she was smart enough to not fall for it and not get back together with him. But this is exactly what avoidants do. Now, they don't do it maliciously, they don't do it purposefully to hurt you, right? But in their own process, they get excited about the relationship too. Just as excited and just as involved, and all of the things that you guys are experiencing together are real. However, for them, something happens in the relationship that is starting to move it to the next level. When something is happening in the relationship that they feel a reality or a pressure that the relationship is putting on them in one way or another, they pull back. they pull out, and they pull away. So that's why a lot of people believe that they are love bombed by avoidance. And in a sense, they are. But it's not, I don't like using that term because it insinuates that the avoidant is doing this on purpose. They're not doing this on purpose. They're experiencing everything they're saying to you. They're experiencing everything that you are experiencing, but are capable of that experience until their emotions honestly, genuinely, and really get involved. Because once their emotions really get involved, that's where they are uncomfortable, they cannot handle it, and they pull away. And they will make up excuses, and not, again, this isn't lying. In their minds, they do not know why they pull away. They don't understand themselves. They just think like, I need space, so I'm gonna take space, and I don't have to discuss that I'm going to take space, because if I need space, clearly this, my partner needs space too, because they've never learned that just shutting somebody out, or they've never learned that, stonewalling somebody is wrong or bad. It's the way they were taught to deal with their emotions. Necessarily even purposefully taught, right? But it's a coping mechanism that they picked up as a way to deal with their emotions of overwhelm. Now for them, they associate love with either neglect, rejection, or suffocation. Actual suffocation, but just feeling suffocated, feeling trapped, feeling like, their individuality is at stake. Will run for the hills if they believe that to be true. Now, there's no amount of words you are going to say to an avoidant that is going to stop them from believing that narrative if your actions don't align with that reality. Meaning that if you give them space and you don't bother them and you don't get angry at them and you're not upset with them that they've taken space when they come back and everything's just hunky-dory, they will more than likely come back and be cool. But that isn't necessarily fair for the partner, right? Because now this avoidant just went and took space, or just went and broke up with this girl, for example, right? In this podcast, he just broke up with her because he couldn't discuss his feelings. He couldn't understand them. He didn't know what was going on inside of him, but he just knew that something freaked him out and it was time to end this. Then he came back telling her that it was the biggest mistake of his life and that, he wants to get back together with her. And she was smart enough to say, no, if this is how you deal with issues, I don't want to be involved with somebody like that. Go get therapy and call me, when that's all done and done. So that is the best possible response. But this is why we pace, okay? Because you do not know how somebody is going to react to pressure, to conflict, to different circumstances until you've lived through those circumstances with them. And if they are not willing to join you for the pacing process, right? In the pacing process, and understand that you need time and understand that relationships build over time, they are without a doubt somebody that has an insecure attachment style or a lot of insecurities and cannot handle a healthy pace of a relationship. And you want those people to go. Even if they feel good in the moment, that feel good in the moment could be a lot of toxic chemistry that you are unaware of, as was clearly identified in this podcast, where this guy out of nowhere, just was done and just couldn't handle it. I have endless amounts of clients, and myself included, that have dealt with this exact thing. I tell all of my clients, many of which don't listen, that 3 months, before 3 months, don't even take the relationship seriously. It's not even a thing. And that is hard, okay? Because again, I got bamboozled, a few years ago at this point, but I was already in this line of work. I was already doing this, and I had this wonderful 3-4 month relationship with this, what seemed like an amazing person, until conflict came, until the reality of our relationship was, becoming apparent. He couldn't handle, not only could he not handle it, but he also was not capable of healthily dealing with conflict and healthily communicating through conflict. I have a client right now who has started out dating someone after, working with me for a little bit. He's ended up in this really what sounds like a really wonderful and beautiful relationship, but they haven't even hit the 3-month mark yet. And he's already deeply in. And when I say deeply in, I mean car-sized in. Like car-sized presence into this relationship. It hasn't been 3 months. And we've talked about the pacing process, but this is to say that your emotional state, your subconscious, that desire for that happiness, for that feeling, for that, joyous enjoyment that you get when you are falling in love, it's very hard to pace that. You have to become super disciplined in your dating process. So some ways of pacing your relationship. Number 1, continue to date other people before the 3-month mark. Even if you really like this person, even if this person is they've checked all the boxes on your list, continue to date more than one person for the first 3 months of this relationship. Do not agree to exclusivity until they are ready to commit. But again, if they are ready to commit before 3 months, you say, I am not ready yet. I need more time. I really like you. This is going really well, but I cannot commit to anything before I'm ready. And you don't have to tell them 3 months. You can just tell them when you're ready. I mean, as much as a feminist as I am and as much as sex positive as I am, I would highly recommend not having sex for the first 3 months in the relationship, because again, that gets you a lot more emotionally involved, that gets you a lot more emotionally tied to the person. For women, it actually creates an emotional bond because you're releasing oxytocin after sex. For men tend to feel a sense of obligation. Decent men tend to feel an obligation towards somebody that they've been sleeping with, and they have a sense of guilt a lot of times, and they stay in relationship a lot of times due to guilt. And so it's not healthy on either side. Continue to have your own life. Continue to say no to this person when you have other things planned. Do not spend all of your time, but do make sure that you cross certain milestones. So what are those milestones? Milestones are going out with other people than just yourselves, right? It's very easy to like somebody when it's just you and him, or you and her, together, and there's nobody else involved, okay? You want to see what this person is like in different situations and different dynamics with different people. You want to go out with their friends, you want to take them out with your friends. You want to maybe meet their families, right? Not necessarily in a serious way, but just, depending on the circumstances, if their families are close and they hang out with their sister a lot, right? Or brother, why not create some situation where all of you can get together, and again, you can see how they are with other people and how they are in other dynamics. Taking a trip is a really good way to get to know somebody, right? If you're not sleeping with them, could create some difficulty, but taking a short trip with somebody, even if it's a long day trip or an overnight trip, is also an option, and you can always stay in separate hotel rooms. Those are some options in ways of pacing, and absolutely 100% continue to date other people as you're dating this person. You really have to vet people to make sure that they are not going to pull the wool over your eyes. And again, this isn't necessarily a malicious thing. This isn't somebody trying to hurt you. This isn't somebody purposefully, out there with the vendetta trying to love bomb people. But it takes about that time for, and whether it's 2.5 months or 4 months, within that time frame, give or take, people start really showing their true colors. And especially the more milestones you're crossing, the more activities you're doing together, that's another option for pacing, is also doing activities together. So for example, let's say you go to the gym together, or let's say you take a writing class together, or you take a ceramics class together, or something of that nature, where again, you get to see how they interact with other people when it's not just you and them, right? You want to know that they're friendly with other people. You want to know that they can make friends. You want to know they're nice to the waiters, and that they're nice, to the people that they're working with. and not just you. And it really says a lot about a person. But again, pacing, pacing, pacing. 3 months, people, 3 months. That seems to be the magic number where people tend to show their true colors. And again, it's not a perfect science, so it could be closer to 4 months, it could be closer to 2.5 months, but that is my suggestion to you. Go listen to You Up, favorite show, subscribe, like. Oh, hello, I have 5 grants that I am giving away. Get on a call with me as quickly as possible.